Hi there, I'm Alexandra Morgan from In-House Pattern Studio. I teach experienced sewers and budding pattern makers how to make and adjust patterns for fit and style. Recently, I got an email from Gigi who wanted to share a comment about an ages-old blog post I did on how to make a bicep girth adjustment on a straight sleeve. Here's what she said. I discovered your website when I searched for an easier method to sew a fly front in pants. Let me tell you that your tutorial is the best and clearest I've come across so far, and I've been sewing for a number of years now. Excellent work. Thank you so much, Gigi. When browsing your site further, I saw your bicep alteration method, which is the one most fitting books and class instructors teach. The comment I have is that this method doesn't work for everyone. Reducing the cap height is a no-go for me. Having a relatively small armhole compared to my size complicates getting a beautifully fitting sleeve even further. In wovens, I can usually resolve the issue by using a two-piece sleeve, but in tees and sweater knits, a two-piece sleeve looks really weird. My question is, are you familiar with a method that would work for us ladies with set anatomy that could be applied to a one-piece sleeve for knits? This is an excellent question, Gigi. In this video, I'm going to share my reply to Gigi's email and give you some suggestions on ways that you can manipulate your bodice and sleeve for a better bicep fit. Okay, here is the bicep girth adjustment that Gigi was talking about in her email. And you can see here that what I've done is basically slash along the center line, and I've left a pivot point here at the wrist, and I've left pivot points here at each of the corners of the cap. And what this does is allow you to pivot your pattern out and away to increase the bicep, but you automatically end up losing cap height because these sections overlap here. So this overlap amount is how much you're losing in your cap height when you make the adjustment this way. So you can see here that I've actually traced in the original sleeve. And you can easily see here that I have increased the bicep girth by 1 inch in this particular example, but I definitely have lost cap height. And as Gigi mentioned, not everyone can afford to do that. And the reason for that is because as soon as you lose cap height, often you'll end up getting drag lines pointing to the top portion of your sleeve, indicating that you actually need more cap height. And this method actually reduces the cap quite a bit. But the beauty of this adjustment is that it doesn't change the seam line length of the sleeve cap, thereby keeping your armhole girth on your bodice exactly the same. You can reduce the amount of cap height that you're losing by playing with this concept of ease in your sleeve head. So I'll go to the next example I have here. And in this case, what I've done is I've created exactly the same slash lines, only instead of bringing these points back together at the center line, I've left them open a little bit, meaning I'm actually adding some ease to my sleeve cap. So I can probably still get this sleeve into my existing armhole, but I'm going to have to ease it in. Doing it this way allows you to keep some of your cap height intact. So you can actually see the difference here, how this amount of cap height is much larger than this one. And that's simply because I've left some opening here or some ease in the sleeve head. Now, the third method I have here is a way that you can keep the sleeve head height as it is, but it's going to require a change to your armhole of your bodice. So you can see here, in this example, what I've done is basically cut off my sleeve cap at the bicep line. And then I've slashed down the center of my pattern, and I've just left a little hinge point here at the wrist. I've spread open my pattern the amount that I need, and this example is using 1 inch. And then I've just replaced the cap back onto the sleeve at the new bicep line. So what I've done here now, if I bring in my sleeve, you'll see that I've increased the bicep girth, but I haven't touched the cap height at all. So the cap height is exactly the same as it is on my original sleeve. But what I have done is added a lot of width to my sleeve, but also added length to my sleeve cap seam line length, which means that I'm going to probably have to make an adjustment to my bodice in order to get my sleeve to fit in properly. So this is what I suggest that you do in order to do that. So what you're going to do is add to your bodice width and lower your armhole depth. And the reason you're going to do both is so that each amount is smaller than what you actually did with the sleeve. So let me put this in focus here for you. So what I've done is, so I've opened this sleeve by 1 inch. So I've added a 1 inch total to the bicep girth of the sleeve, which means this extension is a 1/2 inch longer and this one is also a 1/2 inch longer. So instead of bringing out my bodice by 1/2 inch and creating a lot of extra ease in my bodice width, what I've done instead is used half the amount. So on this side of the sleeve, on the front side of the sleeve, instead of doing a 1/2 inch, I've done a 1/4 here. And then on the back, instead of doing a 1/2 inch as it's showing here, I'm going to do a 1/4. And then I'm going to lower my armhole depth by a 1/4 inch. And also on the back, lowering it by a 1/4 inch. This is going to make the total amount a 1/2 inch that I am increasing my armhole girth as a whole. So even though I've added 1 inch to the bicep girth, I've now added 1 inch to the armhole circumference as well, thereby allowing my sleeve now to fit in properly. So what you're going to find is that there's a real dance between these elements of the pattern. The bicep girth, the cap height, the sleeve head ease, and the armhole girth. All of these things have to sort of come together in order to create a really good fitting sleeve. So sometimes it takes a lot of trial and error to get that sleeve just right, especially to get it comfortable on top of everything. But I hope this helps you a little bit and puts you in the right direction. We'll chat with you soon. Bye for now.